Hi, it's Steph Evans here at Evans Creations, and today I am going to do a tutorial on how to do plaited hair. So we're just starting off with a couple of strands of thread, and I am going to do a backstitch outline along the outer edges of the hair. So I'm just going to anchor the thread here. Okay, and to do that, I just make sure that I stitch over that stitch at the back. So I'm going to hold that little bit of thread in place, and I'm just going to make sure that when I bring my next stitch through here, it catches that little bit of thread. And I just make sure I do that 2 or 3 times, and then that stops you from having to faff around doing any knots or anything. Okay, so I'm just going to use these 2 strands of thread, do the back stitch around the outer edge of that hairline, around the ear, and also along the hairline on the forehead. Okay, so I've gone around the outer edge. Now what I'm going to do is alternate long and short stitches to fill in that bit of hair. So you need to make sure that you're leaving a little gap where the parting is, and that'll leave a bit of negative space on the fabric and will give you the impression of there being a hair parting there. So I'm just doing 1 long stitch, 1 short stitch for that first row there next to the parting, and then for the next row I'm gonna come up here, and then I'm actually gonna pierce back through that first initial row of stitches, and this will give a really nice effect. It fills in the area really well, but it stops it looking so blocky because you're using different lengths of stitches. So I'm going to do that on this side, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. But like I said, make sure that you leave that bit of negative space for the parting. Okay, now I've filled in that area with the long and short stitches. I am going to use one individual strand of thread to kind of add bits of detail to the hair. It makes it look a lot more natural. So I'm literally going over the top of those stitches with just one individual strand of thread. And it gives the impression of being singular hairs. So it gives a really nice effect. And you just do that until you're happy with the result. Okay, so now I'm just going to measure out 3 lengths of that plait with my thread. That just means you've got a little room to play with when actually plaiting it, and you can always trim it at the end. It's better to have a little bit too much than not enough. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm just going to stitch in each of those individual thread hairs. I don't want to do it as one big solid block because it doesn't look quite as effective. So what you need to do is literally just stitch it in and then come back through the fabric, leaving both strands of thread on the front side, and then make sure that they're at equal distance, and just keep doing that with each individual strand of thread until you feel like you've got a thick enough braid for you to plait. So it's completely up to you, whatever thickness it is that you like, but just make sure that you keep coming through at slightly different points. I just think it looks a lot more natural that way. Okay, so once you're happy with the thickness of that hair, you can just use your needle to split those strands into 3 equal quantities, and then we can braid them. So I'm literally just going to split them up with this needle. There you go. It doesn't have to be exact, but just as long as it's almost equal. There we go. Okay. And I'm literally just going to plait these until they're at the right length. Okay, so when you've got the plait to the right length and you feel like you've got that in the right kind of position, you're just going to use one single strand of thread to anchor that braid into place. So I'm literally just done one little stitch here, and we're going to do it like we did before. We're going to try and anchor that thread at the back by just stitching over that stitch. And I'm just going to pin it into place, but you want to make sure that there's a bit of movement. It's not like completely pressed against the fabric, so that that braid kind of stands up a bit off the fabric. It gives a bit more texture, makes it a little bit more 3D, so that you can kind of move it around till you're happy with the positioning of it. So I'm literally just going to do little individual stitches here.
Maybe 3 or 4.
Okay, so when you're happy with the positioning of the braid and you feel like you've got it secure enough there, you just need to snip the excess hair off the end and make sure that it's the right length of what it is that you're going for. Okay, there you go. So you can see how it's still got a bit of movement. There's a bit of texture to it, and it's standing up off the fabric, which I think looks really lovely. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'm going to measure that thread out till it's 3 times the length of the braid. We're going to stitch each individual thread or hair through separately, and then we're going to plait it and pin it in place. Okay, so now I have done both of those plaits. I'm just going to trim the second one to the right length. There you go. Okay, and what I find will give a really nice effect is actually if you trim the ends of the thread so that it's not all kind of the same length, so that it almost gives like a little bit of a point, because when you plait your hair naturally, not all your hair is like got a blunt cut, so it just gives it a bit more of a natural feel by trimming those ends of the plaits. Okay, so I've given it a blast on a hot setting with the hairdryer. That's got rid of all of my heat erasable fabric pen lines. I really like the texture of this one, all the individual hairs on the hair, the fact that you can move those plaits around. I think it's turned out really nice. So I hope you found that helpful. If you need any other tutorials, then please check out my YouTube. See you soon. Bye.